Bears Nation. Bears Nation.
Start with the past. There's nothing you can do to change it. So throw it out. Take out the trash. The trash is anything that is keeping you from the only thing that matters.
See you in the Super Bowl.
Ready?
It's Bears Nation
Podcast.
I don't want them to gain another yard.
Picked off by Mack. You blitz all night. Mack will take it all the way in for a touchdown.
It's time for the Bears Nation Podcast with your hosts, Kevin Lapka
That's just a straight shooter with upper management written all over him.
and Jake Hassan.
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
Phenomenally good.
Okay, guys, show us what you got.
Bears Nation Podcast. Your host, Kevin Lapka, joined not by Jake Hassan, but by the one and only Justin Kaufmann, talking Khalil Mack, Cohen, and all hell is breaking loose at Hallis Hall. Justin, welcome on, my man.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. What a great opportunity to talk Bears on a Friday afternoon, right? I mean, just the idea that we're live, and I know this podcast will come out at some point, but what a day. What a couple of days in Bears Nation, man. I don't know if I'm happy, if I'm sad, if I'm excited, if I'm just over it. It's hard, man. I don't know if I like this. I don't know. We're going to find out. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of both. Like, it's definitely bittersweet at the moment, seeing these guys, like, beloved players, man. Like, Cohen was a fun player. Everybody loved Cohen. Khalil Mack was one of the best defensive ends in the league. You don't want to see these guys go, but there is reasoning to the decisions that Ryan Poles is making. Let's start with Khalil Mack. Let's go there first, because obviously the news comes out about 30 minutes ago. Eddie Goldman is getting released, and then Danny Trevathan hasn't been officially released, but it is rumored that he will be released as well. But let's start with what started this all off yesterday. Khalil Mack traded second-round pick this year, sixth-rounder next year in 2023. Initially, I was a little bit upset about the compensation they got in return, and I still am, but I think I'm a little bit more positive at the moment than you are, Justin. You seem extremely pissed by this trade, and I want to hear from you. I don't know why, because I don't think a majority of people are pissed. I think a majority of people wish they had more, but understand the logic behind making a trade. Where are you at with
well, I understand. Happened? Listen, I understand that this trade is about dumping a salary, a very large salary for a defensive end that didn't see much of the field last year. And I totally get that. I understand that. And to get the actual draft picks is really kind of like icing on the cake. You look at the numbers when you're talking about cap hits for next year, it's phenomenal for the Bears. But the NFL is a superstar league. You know, I know that everyone loves the idea of rebuilding and building a strong foundation, but the teams that are winning Super Bowls, look at the last 2 years, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the LA Rams, they have stars. They have people around that are making big money to play defensive positions and get on a billboard or be able to get some cool animatronic graphic on Monday Night Football, right? That's what you need. And we had one of the best that ESPN cited last night. Van Pelt cited, the 221 quarterback hurries or pressures for Khalil Mack since he came to the Bears is third in the league, right? Behind Joey Bosa, and I think it was TJ Watt or Aaron Donald. One of the that's prime time. Seeing how many games he actually missed. I mean, if he played the extra 10 games from last year, he might actually be not third. He might be first. And at a certain point, you go, well, you're paying big money for big names. And I like that Khalil Mack is a big name, and he's an entertainer. He shows up on the big stage. The game against Tampa with Tom Brady from 2 years ago was one of the most single performances in Bears history. What he did to that rookie who ended up, I think he's a Pro Bowler now. But so my point is, without him, it signals a rebuild. And to me,
I don't know. It might.
I understand what Shane is saying, that they have 147. I heard it was 121. Whatever it might be, that's great. But at a certain point, you have to pay your defensive players. You have to pay a linebacker or a defensive end. You have to pay a quarterback or a wide receiver. And in this day and age, the idea that you're going to find a better value than Khalil Mack, who's one of the top 5 players in the NFL on the defensive side of the ball, I don't understand. Like what's the difference between 147 and 96 million or 110 million? Keep Khalil Mack. Keep him around for another 4 or 5 years and let him dominate when you are in these when you need to win games right now. Now, what it signals to me, Ryan Poles, Matt Eberflus, they don't want to win right now. Their whole thing is they are setting the expectation in March which is awful, that this is going to be a 4-13 season.
That's not necessarily true, though. And so here's why I'll start with that. There's a lot to unpack here. I'll start with that. The reason why I think is the timing of this, okay? They're clearing caps. Like, the timing is significant. They're clearing cap a week before free agency hits. They may clear this cap and then use that cap to get Ryan Jensen, use that cap to get Michael Gallup, and reload at those position groups with younger players who they believe are better fit for their scheme. And I think that's completely valid. Now, when you talk about, I want to go back to the word that you used when you talk about Khalil Mack. You said value. I would argue the fact that they weren't getting the full value out of Khalil Mack. He's the third highest paid defensive player in the NFL. He couldn't stay on the field. And quite frankly, the value you got out of Robert Quinn was greater in the past year than the value you got at Khalil Mack. And the money you were paying him.
I argue that all day, but go ahead.
The greatest ability is availability. And the bottom line is, if you cannot stay on the field, and this wasn't just a 1-year injury, oh, he's out. This has been consistent for him really since after 2018. Could not stay on the field. He's dealing with a back. He's dealing with injuries that linger, injuries that don't go away. Those are things you have to evaluate when you have to understand, when you're a new GM coming in, you have zero allegiance to Khalil Mack. You weren't the one who traded for him. You have to come in and think, look, we're paying this guy in the Bucks. What's he owed? $17 million this year. We can clear $6 million of space this year, and $22 million next year by getting rid of him. And we have a young and up-and-coming defensive end in Travis Gibson. We have the franchise record holder in sacks and Robert Quinn.
You're out of your mind.
I don't know. I'm not out of my mind.
Gibson is anywhere near the level.
No, he's not near it. He's not near it, but he doesn't have to be.
You pay for superstars in this league. Aaron Donald is a superstar. You pay for superstars. And the idea that the Bears are going to try and keep it together without superstars on the defensive end or the defensive side of the ball. They do have
superstars.
That's not who's the superstars behind.
Roquan
I know you say
Roquan Smith. Superstar.
Roquan Smith. I'll give you that. Okay.
Jalen Johnson has the makings to be a superstar.
Okay, right. I would go back and take a look at Jalen Johnson's stats, makings. We love him in Chicago, but he's not a Pro Bowler. He hasn't been there. I just feel like look at Khalil Mack and what he does when you're looking at the Bears, and no one's really drawn this comparison too. When he left was out for the season with his foot, he led the league in sacks. And the Bears were still competitive, and we were talking about maybe possibly being a wild card contender. Justin Fields was the quarterback. They lost 7 in a row when he was gone. And I know that you can't say that's one player, but I think it changes the defensive scheme. I think that there weren't big plays that were made at crucial times, and that's what Khalil Mack got paid for. And I know that there were times he disappeared to us, but when you see a stat that says 221 pressures in 3 seasons, and that's the third largest or third best in the league at that time, you start to recognize this defense is going to look a lot different when you don't have those pressures coming. And I don't think Gibson, I know Shane says, look at Gibson at 7 sacks, but I don't think he's going to put that kind of pressure on the offensive line that is going to make Robert Quinn just kind of, I'm glad for Robert Quinn. I'm glad he's the sack leader. But he is not a impact player like Khalil Mack.
He's not, and I'm not going to debate you on that. Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Khalil Mack's a bad player, but we also do have a little bit of evidence from last year to prove that the defense was capable enough without him. And here's where when you talk about superstar players on defense, here's what you have to understand about this day and age in the NFL. Your superstars on offense have to outnumber your superstars on defense. That's just the way it goes. It's the way it goes. You can afford to pay Roquan Smith. I think Ryan Poles walked into this situation and said, there is no way in hell we can give Roquan Smith the extension he needs and continue to play Khalil Mack and find superstars on the offensive side of the ball. So he said, here's what we're going to do. And this is the philosophy when he came into the press conference, when he spoke at the combine, he said, we are going to put Justin Fields in the best position possible. And how do you do that? Well, you go out and you get Ryan Jensen, who's a free agent this year, one of the top centers in the league, replacing your weakest position on the whole team. Why not? Why not?
Because the signal I'm picking up with the release of Eddie Goldman, the trade of Khalil Mack, that this is, and even Tariq Cohen to an extent. I know he's injured, so it's different. But it's like you're seeing that this is a new regime that wants to do things and rebuild their roster. Today, I was listening to The Score, and they were talking about the idea that they're going to be asking Eberflus to just make a scheme work with players that aren't superstars until they can get to next year and drop $96 million on guys that are the same level as Khalil Mack, maybe 4 or 5 years younger. I understand the idea of, maybe it's time to move from Mack. I'll listen to that. And that's exactly what most of her. But I don't think that the signals that the $6 million that they saved this year is going to go into some extra offensive free agents, which they could have afforded even if they kept Mack.
No, no. But they're saving a lot more.
Something completely different. I hope I'm wrong. I hope on Monday at 12:01 p.m. that Ryan Jensen comes here, that Amari Cooper comes here, that they get Diggs out of Seattle, that it was just a way to free up Khalil Mack. But I have a feeling this signals that they are more interested in saying we're cleaning house. We're willing to take a losing season to be ready in 2023-24. And as a fan, I don't like it.
I mean, no one's going to like the idea of, I mean, you think you know me, Justin, you think I'm thrilled by the fact that we might not have a good team next year. Sure. But also you have to let's not get ahead of ourselves, because the thing that we've talked about all year on this show, from the end of last season to now, is the Bears have building blocks on both sides of the ball. This isn't a team that is just in despair with no talent anywhere. They have significant talent that can compete this year. Yep. 2023 will be the legitimate year that they can have a chance to win the Super Bowl. This year, with $120 million, $140 million in cap
if they're not spending it on guys like Khalil Mack, who are they spending it on? Like, I mean,
they don't need it. They'll spend it on whoever's a free agent next year. Okay. But my point as well is, think about the offensive players you have to build off of right now. You have Justin Fields, you have David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, Darnell Mooney, Daz Newsome, who's Taven Jenkins, Larry Borum, Cody Whitehair, James Daniels is probably going to get an extension. You have the foundation on the offensive side, and probably even a better foundation on the defensive side of the ball with Roquan Smith, Thomas Graham, Eddie Jackson, who I still think is a good player, and we'll find that out this year with a new scheme and different talent around him. Jalen Johnson, like Travis Gibson, Robert Quinn, like you have a solid foundation for this team. The thing that I would go away from the thought that it takes multiple superstars for them to compete. When you talk about getting to the status of Super Bowl level and winning it, you are correct. And that we may be entering the day and age where everyone's going to follow the Los Angeles Rams and just buy. We're going to give you whatever you want to go all in on a Super Bowl this year. That's what the Los Angeles Chargers are doing. They learned from their hometown friends. That's why they traded for Khalil Mack. But also, who was the team that played them in the Super Bowl? The team that played them in the Super Bowl is the complete opposite of the philosophy that you are talking about. Yeah, the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, they had number one picks, though. The Cincinnati Bengals had Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow were the top 10 picks. My point is getting a second rounder and a third rounder and trying to find gold. I all of the people who are watching this, and thanks for all the comments and everything. I mean, I challenge you to be like, can you name second and third round picks that have made a Pro Bowl impact for the Chicago Bears? I'll wait.
Jalen Johnson.
No. Jalen Johnson is a serviceable one. I'm happy he is, but he is not. I mean, we were.
Mooney.
I remember you, of all people, were talking about how great he was on Devontae Adams. And you look at the stat sheet and you're like, oh, wait. By the third and fourth quarter, they figured him out and they started moving him around. And Devontae Adams ended up with 200 yards against the Bears.
Because they moved him away from Jalen Johnson. That's a testament to how good he is.
Right. Yeah. But okay, I'll give you Jalen Johnson. All right. I'll give you that. But the second round picks have been Cole Kmet was a 1, right? He wasn't even a 2. Adam Shaheen was the first one. You've got Anthony Miller was a 2.
Yeah. It doesn't matter, though. You have a new GM. It doesn't matter. The past is the past. You have a new guy taking people in the second round.
The thing about Khalil Mack is that I feel like he should be untouchable. And I understand you're going to say that's crazy because you're going to all the overall. But the idea that you would move on from a Khalil Mack who can play, someone in the comments said he can't play the 4-3. He was an all-pro in the 4-3. He knows how to play it. To move on from him is a signal to Bears fans. Get ready for the Pernell McPhee days of Bears defense. I'm telling you, man, it's going to be like, they're kind of good. They're okay. And Khalil Mack they're great. And I want great out of a team that supposedly is in a position, as you just mentioned, with all these playmakers and Justin Fields. You're already past the rebuild. You can't rebuild and make him have a rookie season again. The idea that we're going to rebuild and wait for a couple years is going to burn us, because you know what's going to happen? We're not going to get to playoff time until it's time to pay Justin Fields. And Justin Fields will be good enough, and we'll be like, all right, we'll be back in Mitch Trubisky world. And I just feel like right now I want to be a fan of a team that doesn't have to reload every freaking 4 years. And they do it all the time, and I don't think that's the way to win football games. I don't. Unless you have like the worst team. The Bears have been so bad during Nagy that they failed even in the draft. meaning they didn't have number 1 picks. And even if they did, they were the late rounds because they were 8-8 or 9-7. They don't have the Cincinnati Bengals were 2-14 for 5 years. Like the idea being those players, Jamar Chase is it's no brainer to draft that guy. Joe Burrow was number 1, no brainer. So when you say, look, they're building with the draft, yeah, they're building with lottery picks. The Bears don't have that. So I'm a little bit scared that what's going to happen is we're going to think that we're going to have all this trust in someone who, frankly, I don't know has ever done this before. And we're going to be in the same spot we were with Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy going, why did we pick these guys? And it scares me because Khalil Mack was a game changer. And to just get rid of him before a contract, it doesn't bode well for fandom. That's just my take on it.
I mean, the thing you have to understand, though, and everyone has to understand, like, and I hinted at it earlier, but I'll get at it more, is, again, in this day and age of football, you can survive with the 13th ranked defense and a top 5 offense. You're in a better, if you said, would I rather have the 13th ranked defense or let's go 15, 13 such a random, the 15th ranked defense and the 5th best offense, or the 5th best defense and the 15th ranked offense, everybody in an instant immediately should say, give me top 5 offense, top 15 defense.
You're such a young kid. You're such a young kid. The Bears have never had a top 5, and they never will.
Yes, but they have that is not true. That is not true. That is not true.
It's not a possibility. And
it is a
way
possibility.
that the Bears win football games.
Oh, come on,
they
Justin.
They win it where they play fundamental football. When they won the '85 Bears, they had a top 5 running back who and a great offensive sort of top. I mean, at the time, top 5 in the league. Dickerson was probably number 1, and they had a defense that turned the ball over. And the only time they ever came close to that, they went to the 2007 Super Bowl with a top 5 running back, if you will, and Thomas Jones. I don't know if he was at that time, but a defense that turned the ball over. So my point is, I know that that's not what we want, but whenever this team tries to go offense, whether it's Nagy or Trestman,
it doesn't matter.
We fail, man.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you want to know why? Tell me right now. I'll ask you. Tell me right now. What's the difference between this year's team and the team that they currently have from the offensive side that they didn't have in any of the teams in the past since the inception of the Chicago Bears? What do they have? They have a quarterback. They have a quarterback who is capable of being a top 10 quarterback in the league.
Your Ohio State Kool-Aid is showing.
No, it's not.
Justin Fields was not rated well by the league last year, even when he had opportunities.
But we know
there's a lot of open shots. He may not be the best quarterback in the league. He may not be the best of that class. And I'm just saying, I know you love him because you went to school with him.
That's not just why. That is not just why.
I love Justin Fields. I want Justin Fields to succeed. But to act as if it's him, ride or die, and that's it, we're in trouble. Because right now he's 25th ranked in the 28th ranked. I don't know what it is, somewhere low down. I just feel like, yeah, okay, right, exactly. He's top 5 in deep ball accuracy. I loved what I saw from him in the limited time we had, but I think this has to be a much more comprehensive approach. And to me, we hired a defensive-minded coach. The idea I thought we were getting back to was win these games in the NFC North. Beat the Packers, beat the Vikings, beat the Lions, and get to the playoffs. And in the playoffs, have a defense does matter in the playoffs. You saw it. You saw the Rams. The Rams got real good when they needed to because their defense was shut down. And you win games by 3 points or 2 points, and kick every playoff game was decided by a field goal, right? And that was because defenses were playing with lights out when they needed to play. And I'm just afraid that if we take the idea of like, oh, we just got this great offense and all these Michael Gallup, okay, we're going to be great. And I just feel like we need to be thinking about the superstars who are going to change the game on the other side of the ball. Roquan's great. After that, I'm not sure who's there, man, and it scares me.
I'm like, you talk about defense in the playoffs. Did you watch the Chiefs-Bills game? What kind of
right?
Yeah,
great.
The defense is really wow. What powerful defense!
Both of those teams lost.
I mean, the Bengals had the 24th ranked defense all year. 24th ranked.
And they showed up. I give them credit. They showed up in the playoffs, man. They were great.
Yeah. So, but they didn't. Tell me the superstars on the Cincinnati Bengals defense.
Listen, I it's hard for me to say. I love that the Bengals made it to the Super Bowl. I think that's awesome. I think it's fluke. I don't think they're going to be back there. I think the AFC is really
too
tight.
hard. But
I think that they did a great. I give them a lot of credit that they played unbelievable and caught a couple teams sleeping. But right now, it's a great point Shane makes. At O-line, I don't know. I'm excited about. I wanted to be excited about this team. I'm not excited to see guys that I know play monster football. Like they can beat one-on-ones and make superstar plays, get shipped for a scheme or a rebuild. And that's what scares me.
You, Justin, you're stuck in the old adage of Bears football. And I don't blame you. You've been a Chicago guy all your life. You know, you're stuck in it. But here's what you have to think about, right? Think about this. Would you rather have 2018 with Mitch Trubisky as your quarterback and a superstar on defense with Khalil Mack, or would you have 2022 with Justin Fields, a superstar potential quarterback on offense and good pieces on defense? What would you rather have?
I think you could have it. The thing about Khalil Mack is saving $6 million and getting a second round pick for this year. I mean, why not wait a year on Mack? Why not let him play this year and get us to the playoffs because Eberflus' system is good to go, and then next year let him go and you still have the same cap hit. And that's the thing I don't understand. I mean, you're getting the second round out of it now. All right, I guess that's worth something, not for the Bears, but for other teams, like it's worth something. But I just feel like this signals, and we don't talk about this, and maybe we should. You know, nobody's really asked Khalil Mack what he wanted, and you know this idea. I thought about it the minute that Eberflus started talking about hits. And this idea that we're going to run and we're going to hustle. And I'm like, these are professional athletes. These are guys that have played at the highest level. You're going to make them run laps around the Bourbonnais training camp.
I have no problem with that.
I'd love to hear an Adam Hogue or an insider be able to get Khalil Mack to say, I forced that trade. Or I want out of this bullshit. Like a certain point.
You want out of bullshit because you don't want to run? I mean, that's like
you don't want to play with a coach who's like, it's all about hustle. When you're like, have some respect for some of these guys who are former defensive players of the year.
You watch how they played that last year? They don't deserve a whole lot of respect for the way they played last year. They didn't put anything out on the field last year. Most of those guys were sluggishly, working their way through the game just to get through the end of it and get a paycheck at the end. Yeah. That's the way it felt. They deserve to have to run.
Kevin, you're much smarter than I am, and your commenters are much smarter than I am. But I understand I am on the everyone loves the fact that we got the cap space and draft picks, and Khalil Mack is old and he's injured. But we're all Bears fans, and at a certain point, if you look back to the last decade of Bears football, Khalil Mack was the best player the Bears ever had. Mm-hmm. And throughout, I mean, you saw the game. His first game in Green Bay was something of legend. Yeah. What he did to Tom Brady when Tom Brady's like, you again? I mean, there's just not a lot of players in the NFL that do that, right? And so to me, I feel like at a certain point, that's what I want to keep in Chicago is these superstars that are better than everybody else. And the idea that we're getting rid of that and sacrificing that does not bode well for us competing against the Aaron Rodgers and the NFC teams that do have some pretty great offenses that need to be neutralized. That's what scares me. Even with Eberflus's defense, the Colts are not a team that struck fear into my heart last year. Like their defense,
I mean, they were flying.
I guess, except when they're playing Jacksonville and they can't make the playoffs. But
fair enough.
I don't know, man. It stinks of Mark Trestman to me. Like this whole thing, and I don't like that the first move that the GM makes is to get rid of Khalil Mack.
You have to understand the position Ryan Poles was put in, though. And this is, look, you can evaluate, like, what you say about Mack and him being the best player last decade. All those things are true. All of that is true. But those things have to come with the factors. Like, you have to take into the factors as well. And the bottom line is, from a value standpoint, when you talk about contracts, when you talk about bringing in players from the draft, I mean, this applies to the draft too. You find value in the later rounds for less money, for lower picks. You find value for lower money. Yeah. The value for Khalil Mack simply was not there. And the thing you want to see from any player, especially a team that the position with the Bears, is you want to see players who are ascending in their career, not descending. Khalil Mack is descending in his career. He'll never be as good. He'll never be as good as what he was in 2018 if he can't stay on the field. If he gets a full 17 games, he can.
Yeah, I get it. He's injured. He got injured and he was out for the year. When he left, he led the NFC in sacks. So let's pretend like he was terrible, but he wasn't terrible. And if he was healthy on the field, you're right. I mean, you can make the argument that he was hurt. And there's a lot of great stars in the NFL that get hurt all the time. That's part Dak Prescott. There's stars that get hurt, and you get that. It's a tough game.
But those are injuries. He broke his ankle. Not because he's not a soft guy. But if we're dealing with, every other week he's playing. Oh, now he's got a back. This isn't like clean break of the arm. He'll be back next year.
You know what? I mean, unfortunately, what we've seen in the NFL in I guess in the last 2 years is a lot of injuries and a lot of guys skipping games. The Bears are not any different than the rest of the NFL when it comes to that. So
Eberflus wants to make them run.
Okay, but let's back up. Let's back up just a second, because you're talking, and a lot of the fans are talking like you play Madden and you love being a GM, and you understand the value of a cap, and you understand draft picks, and it had to happen because of the ascending or descending value of Khalil Mack. Take a step back and think about this game as entertainment. And entertainment, you have to have superstars. You can't have a show that you're selling tickets to 200.
You're teeing me up, Justin. You're teeing me up.
And for me, as a fan, I want to see a competitive Justin Fields. Everyone wants a dog on Ryan Pace, and I get it. I was really angry with him too, and I'm glad he's gone. But the move to get Justin Fields was about, let's get a playmaker, a superstar who potentially could be a superstar to be on the field. Let's get Khalil Mack and trade some first-round picks for a bona fide superstar. Let's go get Mitch Trubisky. Failed on Mitch Trubisky. That's why he should be fired. But I don't think the logic's wrong. The logic is go get the best quarterback in the draft. We need a superstar defensive end, a superstar quarterback. That's what you want on both sides of the field. And right now, I feel like by moving away from that, if they don't go in free agency and go get a Chandler Jones or I don't know, like a Frank Clark or Bobby Wagner. Like if they don't get those guys, instead they go, we're going to go through the draft or Roquan's our guy, then the answer is that this team is not willing to compete right now. And that scares me, because I want them to compete right now. I don't give a shit about the draft. I don't care about the cap. I want my team to be competitive every single year. That's the kind of fan I am. Sue me.
That's fair. I've had that same outlook, but I'm also not out on the fact that even if they don't make a ton of splash moves in the free agency, at least, that they can't compete. Like I don't think that's an assumption that there's no chance, because you have to understand as well. This, like the NFC, who just left? Russell Wilson just went. Seeds 5 through 7 are wide open. Green Bay is going to win the North probably. The rest of the North is W's for the Bears, should be, and they can compete against Green Bay.
The same thing, man. In Minnesota right now, they're saying W Bears.
Yeah, no, they're
Bears
not.
Twice. The Lions are like, we're gonna beat the Bears twice.
Okay.
I mean, that's where we're at.
No, that's not where we're at.
That's where we're at. The NFL right now is seeing the Bears wave a white flag. You can say otherwise.
Not waving a white flag.
Tweets, they go fire sale. Bears suck. Fire sale. I mean, that's what they're doing to us right now. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. To sell Khalil Mack to the Chargers for a contract and a 6th round pick in 2024 and a second for this next. It's embarrassing. That is not how you treat superstar players, man. And I get it that you want to change the system, and that's all good, and draft picks and data. And let me get my mouse. And this guy plays on the field, man. And he had 221 pressures.
He plays on the field half of the year
in the entire league for the time he was here. He's one of the best defensive players we've ever had in Chicago. And I hate that I see people acting as if they think he's old. Or he is going to eviscerate the NFL in San Diego. With Joey Bosa or the other Nick Bosa, whatever Joey. One Bosa's on the other side. Oh my gosh, the teams. I think the Chargers are going to win the AFC West, and that's a tall order.
They're not winning the AFC West.
All right,
Kansas City's winning the AFC West. But I don't like, again, we're reactionary to this because of the timing of it. But again, I think the timing means something. I mean, this is typically the time when you release players. But again, like in a week, you could be eating all of your words in a week if they make just two big moves. If they got Ryan Jensen and a top tier receiver, I'll say
they got that and kept Mack. Don't act like they can. They had 30 million in cap space. They could have. No, they're only picking up $6 million for the cap this year. So don't act like that $6 million is going to bring Ryan Jensen to Chicago. My point is, they made a choice to say Khalil Mack doesn't fit the system. Khalil Mack is too much money for next year. We can't build a foundation with this guy. They made a choice to say the superstar gets paid too much. I hate when they do that, man. I hate when NFL teams say the superstar gets paid too much. Then it's like, well, wait, why is he getting paid too much? Because he's one of the best top 5 defensive players in the league. Do you think you could do better? Ryan Poles just told us we can do as good without the guy who's top 5. In Pittsburgh, it'd be like, TJ Watt's got to go because I think that the guy behind him is better. Or we won't see a
okay,
drop.
Come on.
I don't like that shit,
No.
Yes.
TJ Watt is the defensive player of the year who stays on the field, who never misses a game. That is a completely different scenario. And the thing you also talk about,
you're full of it. You think that TJ Watt has played his whole career? TJ Watt's out every other game.
No,
same with the Bosa guys. They're out every other game. Bosa missed all last season in San Francisco. Like it happens. These defensive players are those offensive linemen are huge. And there are a lot of injuries to outside linebackers in 3/4. And it just is.
Let me say,
been up and down.
Let me say about Khalil Mack as well. He's regarded throughout the tenure of his career. You look at his career holistically. Yeah, one of the top DNs in his time.
Yeah.
The past 2 years, tell me how often Khalil Mack was making an impact consistently. You can take specific games. The Bucks game, hell yes. There's a few other ones. Obviously, Packers 2018. Since 2018, I would implore you to think of other times, or really just an overview of when he consistently, week in, week out, was making an impact. Khalil Mack has the ability to make incredible plays that will get 1,000 likes on social media in 2 seconds because he does the most ridiculous things. He's one of the most freakishly athletic people to ever play the sport. But as far as week in, week out, when Khalil Mack takes that field, he's wreaking havoc. I didn't see that last year. I didn't see that in 2020.
Quarterback pressures in 3 seasons in Chicago.
Was it leading to wins?
Was
it leading to wins though? It wasn't leading to wins when he was on the field. That's all that matters.
I mean,
he wasn't. You pay the guy that much money to lead you to wins and lead you to the playoffs, and it wasn't.
All right. In 2018, I know it's so easy. It's so easy to just cast this guy off as a loser, and we got rid of this contract.
No, he's not a loser.
In 2018, the Bears are not 12-4 or 13-3.
I agree. He's a different player than what he was in 2018. He's a different player.
Their defense stepped up. Now, you're right. In 2019, and I also blame this on Matt Nagy to an extent, and I also would say that the Vic Fangio left. Let's put some points on that.
Plays a
Our
role,
offense was awful, and the Bears' defense kept them in games a lot of the times. And you're right. Khalil Mack was in and out of the lineup, blah, blah, blah. But that's all great. And then this year, but I think people forget because it was overshadowed by, A, we wanted Nagy gone. B, Justin Fields needed to start at quarterback. Khalil Mack was having another record-setting season. He had, 7 sacks, 8 sacks when he got hurt. And I know that you're going to say, but that Browns, here's a great example. We got our ass kicked in that Browns game. Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn made that from not being 60-0 because Fields was not ready for that game. And he saw that. Like there were a couple 4th downs where both Quinn and Mack got to the quarterback to Mayfield to change the trajectory, and then we blew it on offense. So I'm just saying, I don't know why we're even arguing this. I'm sorry. I'm sad to see Khalil Mack go. I'm a little worried that the value of Khalil Mack was not recognized by this new crew. I don't know why that was the case. I understand it's all about money. The game's all about money. But I'm telling you, he's going to go take his talents to L.A., and now when when the Chargers get Monday Night Football games and Khalil Mack gets a little animatronic cartoon and Khalil Mack is going to be on the Sunday Night Football going like this, dun, 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 dun. Like you're going to realize the star that is missing in Chicago. And that's what I don't like. It reminds me a lot of what they did to Urlacher, what they did to Briggs and Peppers at the end of that defense, where they said, we can play without these guys. And we saw what happened, man. They became very nondescript. It took 7 years to get back to playing football, and that was because of Khalil Mack. And now he's gone, and I love Roquan. I think he's great, but Roquan's great when 2 offensive linemen are blocking Khalil Mack, and Roquan can get to the runner. That's what makes him so great. It's going to be a lot harder when that guy's clogging up the middle.
There's 2 last things I'll say. One, when you talk about I think you're getting the idea that Khalil Mack is the nucleus of this team, that he is the core and you should build around Khalil Mack. That's not the case. Justin Fields is the nucleus of the team. Yeah, whatever Khalil Mack does doesn't determine how good the team can be. And also, when you talk about, well, we're going to understand, how much we miss him when he's gone. We understand that already. The defense for the last half of the year, specifically that Vikings game on Monday Night Football, specifically a few others, played well without him and with a lot of other guys injured. They played well. I mean, they held Kirk Cousins to 40 passing yards in the game at home. Yeah. Robert Quinn getting after the quarterback. Yeah, they lost because their offense wasn't good enough. They didn't lose because because they were missing Khalil Mack. You think they would have won that game if Khalil Mack was there? No, the offense put up 13 points. This is what I mean when and the way I'm looking at it, the positive outlook that I typically always have, and I initially was pissed. You don't I'm with you to a certain extent, Justin. You don't want to see one of the top players in the league leave your team. You want superstars on your team as a fan, as an entertainment. That's great, but if you get rid of Khalil Mack and reload at 3 different positions with younger players, if in 3 weeks, we'll look at that. We'll say, hey, we got player X, player X, player X. And maybe if they move up in the draft for Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson to pair with Justin Fields, his college teammate, and you add that all together and you say, does 4 X's equal Khalil Mack? I have a feeling you'll say 4 X's will be greater than Khalil Mack. And
okay, my pushback on that is that you're missing the point that Khalil Mack is not going to make it easier to sign those guys. Those guys were going to be – they had the cap room to sign Ryan Jensen.
No, they did not. They did not have the cap room to sign Ryan Jensen, extend Roquan Smith, and pay James Daniels, pay the other players.
You can go down the list. But my point is the idea of trying to get rid of Mack, and that's going to give us reload of 4 or 5 players. They could have done that with Mack. And my point to me is more about this is about reloading. This is about building a foundation. And I think that's all great. But as a fan, I have the right to be exhausted by the Bears style. They do this every 4 years, and it gets us to maybe one fluke season, one Dick Duran fluke season, one Matt Nagy fluke season, one Lovie Smith fluke season. And then we're back to 8-8. And I don't have a lot of faith in Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus.
Oh, come on. It's been
to be the guys that are going to take this team to Patriots level. I just don't. And I mean, right away, I'm like, you don't see the value in Khalil Mack? I know he's getting paid a lot, but he's getting paid compensatory to what he delivers. So it's like, you still need to pay that. If you pay the next guy $15 million, he's going to be that much less than Khalil Mack. That's my point. I don't like when you do that, because I think that sends a message to the fans that they are smarter than what we see on the field, and I'm a little scared that they're not. That's my take as a Bears fan. I hope they stock the offense. I hope it's not Michael Gallup, to be honest. I don't think Michael Gallup's
good. He's not number one.
I hope I like your plan. I hope they can go get the Ohio State receiver. I think that's awesome. It's not going to make a difference to me, like in terms of us being big. I liked Ryan Poles when he talked about early on about it. Battles are won in the trenches. And that made me very excited about the idea of a Khalil Mack leading this defense, because he's a trench guy who wins in those one-on-ones, and he's not here now. So you're like, okay, well, I want to see what you do. And you know what? I reserve judgment, because on Monday they could come back out and go get some cool players. And we're like, I like the vibe of this. Right now, I'm not going to be like, okay, since you got hired and you never had experience before, we'll let you have that. I don't like that they traded Khalil Mack. I just don't like it. It's a Jacksonville move, not a.
Oh, it is not a Jacksonville move.
This is a major market. This is a major market football team, Kevin. We are not playing in Cincinnati. We're not playing down in Carolina. This is Chicago. We should have 5 Khalil Macks. I don't give a shit about your cap, and I don't care about you. Figure it out. You should, for the fans, that's your job, to give me 5 Khalil Macks. Just like LA, they figured out the only way they're going to get these people to pay attention is if we have 5 Aaron Donalds. Get me 5. Get me Jalen Ramsey. Get me Von Miller. Get me Aaron Donald. That's what they did. And the fans are like, oh, I like this team. Bears got to do the same thing, man. If they're trying to cheap it and say, I think a 3rd round, I think the 6th round guy we got last year can replace Khalil Mack. That scares the crap out of me. It really does.
The Bears will be as good as what Justin Fields. The Bears will go as far as Justin Fields takes them. You talk about the fluke seasons of the past. You talk about the Bears doing this year after year, 4 years, blah, blah, blah. You can talk about the past all you want. Again, this is a different era. This is something we've never seen. There's a legitimate chance, whatever Justin Fields does is greater than whatever Khalil Mack would have done. That's what matters right now. And I am all in on the idea that we are going to invest in Justin Fields and invest in putting the pieces around him. And if that means spending that money to get offensive linemen, spend that money to, allocate resources to the offensive side of the ball, I'll take that all day, because I have the I have the proof and the evidence to believe that this defense, with a few other pieces, which, don't have to be significant, can be a serviceable enough defense to win you football games. This defense does not need to hold teams to 10 points. This defense needs to hold teams to 24 points, and Justin Fields needs to score 27. And if you do that, you will have a very good season. So I understand it. I'm with you.
That's a lot of unknowns there, man, for a kid who did not have a great rookie season.
But come on, Justin. You know why? I mean, the cat's out of the bag there. We know why Justin Fields didn't have a good season.
I'm all about Justin Fields. I love Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields is a
Matt Nagy ruined talent. We know that.
But I also feel like I've heard this dance before. They did the same thing with Mitch Trubisky. If we'll go get Allen Robinson. He's gonna be great.
And the same thing about Mitch Trubisky. Don't compare the two. You can't compare those two situations. Right. The ceiling for Justin Fields, is higher than Mitch Trubisky. You know that.
But I'm just saying that the rhetoric is the same. We got to build around Mitch Trubisky. We got to bring in Allen Robinson. We got to bring him tools now that he's in this league. And we scored 27 points. He got to 24 at a certain point, and then it fell off the cliff. Now, again, that's not here nor there. That's Matt Nagy. I'm excited to see what this kid from Green Bay does. I'm just not a fan of getting rid of superstars. That's it. I'm not.
Fair enough.
I guess Shane's right. You need a serviceable defense, but that doesn't play in Chicago. It
doesn't matter though. It has to change, Justin. It has to change. Yeah. We can't have this outlook for the rest of the time. I mean, this era of football, you have to change. The Kansas City Chiefs, who will perennially be the best team in the NFL and be in a contention for a championship every single year for as long as Patrick Mahomes is on that contract. Every single year, the Kansas City Chiefs will have a chance to win something significant as long as Patrick Mahomes is there. They don't go all out on defensive pieces. They don't go all out.
That's not true.
Not crazy. I mean, they had Tyrann Mathieu and Frank Clark.
Tyrann Mathieu.
But they had to fix what was on offense first, and then they can spend that.
The Chiefs spend a lot of money on free agents on the defense, and they have I don't know, their system's terrible. I don't know what it is, but every year you got guys there that are getting paid. Chandler Jones was getting paid when he was there. Chris Jones or whoever Jones was. And same with Frank Clark. I mean, and good. They should be, but there's not too many teams that are competitive that don't have guys, defensive linemen that are getting paid on their team. Let's be honest about it. I mean, you know that. I mean, you look at all the teams from the Niners and the who beat them in the Super Bowl, the Rams. The Niners and the Rams both have paid defensive stars on that front seven. And the same with the teams like Tampa. Tampa has what's his name, Pierre Paul.
Said Pierre Paul. Come on,
he gets paid. I'm just saying he gets paid, doesn't he? I mean, they get paid.
He gets paid like.
I'm just saying you got to pay your defensive line guys, and the idea to be like, no, we don't. I don't like it. I just don't like it. You got to pay certain positions in football: defensive end and quarterback, maybe a receiver, number one, right? A left tackle. Right. That's a great point. Cody Whitehair is our highest paid. It just, to me, it's like you're not going to win in the NFL by cheaping around. You got to pay the money and you got to pay for top talent. But we saw this with Allen Robinson. Like they didn't want to pay him they were like, no, he's not worth it. And I'm like, well, then why aren't you trying to get a better receiver in the top 5? Like if you're not going to pay him, pay someone who's in the top 5. And it's, I don't know, man. As Dick once said, and I know your commenters will get pissed at me for bringing up the 85 Bears, but he once said about George Halas, he throws around nickels like they're manhole covers because he's so cheap. And that is in the system. His family owns the Bears, and this is a cheap move.
They are not Khalil Mack.
Cheap. They need two. While you have Justin Fields on a rookie contract, you best be paying big money for everybody else. That's what every good team is doing. You're going to see this. I'll bet you'll see money being poured in. Big market teams, that are paying big money for their guys. But I don't like the fact that we're shipping superstars. That's just my thing. I want to be entertained, and I want the best in Chicago. And that is by shipping the best to LA. I don't like it.
You want to be entertained, Justin. You want to be entertained. That happens through one player. Happens through one player only. And that's Justin Fields. That's the entertainment in this day's. You go to Soldier Field to watch. I don't go to Soldier Field to watch Khalil Mack rush the quarterback. I go to Soldier Field to watch Justin. I don't. No, come on. I don't go to. No, like you go to Soldier Field as a football fan in general. You go to the games to watch your team put up 30 plus points, not hold the other team to less than 10. What's more exciting? You talk about entertainment. What's more exciting as a fan, to go watch your team put up 30 or go watch your team hold the opposing team to 10? Come on, we got to
like sack is they paid defensive ends a lot of money for the sack.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. Like the guys who break sack records get paid a lot of money, man. They do. The Bosa brothers are getting paid, man. So I hear you. It's all about Justin Fields, but I also feel like you got to have guys on the defensive side. And the Bears have always done that. I mean, you saw they paid Brian Urlacher, they paid Julius Peppers, they paid Khalil Mack. It's when they're not there, when there isn't a Khalil Mack, is when we're like, why are we 6-10? And I feel like that's usually when that's the case. And I just don't like it. I like to see the Bears attract free agents and attract big time players as opposed to subtract them. That's what I do not like.
Let me say one more thing too. As far as Matt Eberflus, in the eyes of Matt Eberflus, I like this in the eyes of Matt Eberflus in one way. And that is, I think he is thinking, look, I want to get guys that work for me. And I understand where you're coming from, but we have to get away from this idea of let's come in and, just keep these guys around. No, give me players that are going to work for me. Give me, this is what I want. Yeah. Give me what I want this. And like, I'll make the argument for days that you have to work with what you have as well. You have to come in and you have to work with certain players that you have, and you have to fit your scheme in certain ways to the players that you have, especially in the offensive side of the ball. But if Eberflus came in and said, hey, look, let's get rid of Mack and give me a few other guys who I think are going to, be more impactful in other ways, who are going to fly after the ball. We're all about getting takeaways on this defense. The defense was last in takeaways last year. Let's find a way to get after the ball. Then he's doing what it takes to do that. Like, and I'm okay with that.
I'd be okay if he was 13-3 or coming off a 12-4 season somewhere else, but this dude's unproven. So the idea that we're like,
Eberflus?
Eberflus.
He's proven. He's proven with his defensive schemes are proven. Man. He is proven.
I'm sorry, but I appreciate 2 years ago the Indianapolis Colts having a pretty good defense that got him bounced by Buffalo in the first round. But last year,
why they get bounced by Buffalo in the first round?
They fell off the cliff. Yeah, and they tried to fix it with Carson Wentz, but losing to Jacksonville to not make the playoffs, that's Mark Trestman shit. That's Chris Conti not picking.
Oh, stop it! No, that is Carson Wentz shit. That's what that is. Again, every example that you have made about the Bears or other teams and their lack of ability to make the Super Bowl has been the fact that they have not had a quarterback, and that's what I mean. Like. That's what it comes down to. We could have this. We could argue this for 7 more hours until midnight, and I would love it. I'd be down for it. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is the Bears have a quarterback, and that's what matters. Like they have a quarterback who can potentially be a superstar, and that matters more than any of the pieces that you move around in the puzzle that you can put together in the defensive side of the ball. You have a constant at the most important position in all of sports, and that is what matters more than the superstar on any other side of the ball. Is you have the one constant in the most important position in any sport. He is what matters. You have him. You have a chance to do something in the coming years, regardless of whether Khalil Mack, who's 31 and played 6 games, is there or not.
You're not being fair to the yin and yang of football.
The yin and the
Super Bowl is a great example. The Cincinnati Bengals, what an amazing run. But at the end of the day, they were short a guy making an impact play on the defensive side of the ball.
No, they were short of the offensive line holding their defense to making a play. They could have gone down the field and won that game.
The LA Rams won both their playoff games, and they won their Super Bowl because the defense stepped up with superstars. When the Aaron Donald stepped up as the guy that got paid for the LA Rams, Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey. That's what they did. So I completely understand you need a quarterback, but as we saw in Max Stafford, there's sometimes the quarterback just ain't getting it done. And there'll be times when Justin Fields makes the wrong read and he goes 3rd and 10 or 3 and out, and we're kicking the ball away. You need to have stars on the other side of the ball that are.
And they do, Justin. They do. They have young pieces who are very, very talented, who have the ability to be superstars. Yeah. Like they don't. They made.
More than two guys on the defensive side right now.
Can we say Robert Quinn is close to being a
Jalen
superstar?
Johnson and Roquan Smith is all I would say is the future of the Bears.
I think Thomas Graham has a very bright future with the Bears. I think Eddie Jackson has Thomas Graham. I think Thomas Graham is a very bright. Don't give me that. You watched the way he played last year. Come on.
Played one game, dude. I know you love him,
games
but
and he
you
balled
didn't
out.
even have him on the field. I wouldn't say. I mean, I hope he's great. I liked him too. I loved his toughness, but he is not a future star for the Chicago Bears.
No, it's not true. Stop it.
He's gonna be lucky if he makes the team. And the same with and I know the Robert Quinn love, and I love that he got the sack record, and he played what an amazing year for him. But we forget the year before he had 2 sacks. And so, he's not a proven commodity in this defense. I hope he comes through and he's going to have to play. He's going to have to be the superstar. He definitely is. But, I mean, the jury's out on whether or not this guy is a record breaker or a dud. And I don't know. It's like there's no consistency. And I love that he's not paid as much, and I get that. I get it. But again, I don't care about the cap, and I don't care about how much you pay. This is Chicago. It's a big market. Make it work. Get the right guys in the right position. I, as a fan, really loved what Khalil Mack brought to the Chicago Bears defense. He was a superstar. He proved that the stats bear out. He did things that no other Bears defensive player has ever done.
Oh, come on, dude! You did things they fuck you
that Green Bay game
about?
in 2018. You can't even. I don't even know how they give you a Twitch show if you do not recognize that was probably the best game of a Bear defender in history.
Yeah, against Deshaun Kaiser, but it was
whatever it might be. No, it was against. It was But the point being that the idea is that Khalil Mack is a tremendous force, and I'm afraid without him, you say about this future Bears team is really exciting to watch defensively, and I'm like, I don't see it.
I don't care. The defense
who's playing the other defensive end? Gibson, you say? Maybe they'll get a free agent. I hope they do. Who's the other linebacker? Who are the linebackers right now?
They have Alec Ogletree's a free agent, and then all they have is Roquan. Alec Ogletree. So they'll have to, and they just cut Trevathan. I have a feeling they'll go after Wagner. I mean, they're in the right position to go after Wagner. But
again, I'll eat my words, and I hope I eat my words. That on Monday at 12 noon, they're like Bobby Wagner is coming to Chicago to play opposite Roquan Smith. I'd be like, yes. And you probably got him for less, not much less.
Dude, not Bobby Wagner will be.
Wagner's gonna get paid. He's gonna get paid.
He ain't getting paid shit. He'll get paid a 1-year deal. He'll be on a 1-year deal. How old? Bobby Wagner's got to be what, 35? That guy's got to be old, right?
Yeah, he's probably 33, 34. He's older, but that flies in the face of why they cut Mack, right? I mean, he's
31. Bobby Wagner's 31.
30. I mean, it's not bad. He's got a lot of tread on the, but I'd be okay with that. If they said that. I still think Khalil Mack's better than Bobby Wagner.
Yeah, but
I don't think you need another a tackling machine in that spot. But right now, that's my point. It's like if Quinn's going to play the defensive end in a 4-3, and then you're going to have 2. You don't have Goldman. You got rid of him, so now it's Bilal Nichols and nobody because they're not going to sign Akeem Hicks.
Probably not. Yeah.
And then you don't have on the other side. You have Gibson. The linebackers 3 across. It's a 4-3. Are going to be Roquan and nobody. They don't have anybody on the other sides. Where Christian Jones is a free agent. I'm not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's a lot of missing pieces, and then you're like, we didn't even talk about the secondary. Then you're like, who's the 2 corner in this? Who's the free safety or the strong safety? Like, there's a lot of holes to say, let's get rid of Mack. And then you're like, well, now I'm not even sure who's on this team. Roquan can't make every play.
You're making the point though, because there's a lot of holes. And how else are you gonna fill those holes? Because you can fill 3 holes for the price of 1 with getting rid of Khalil Mack. I mean, that's what you can do.
Maybe.
And that's why
$6 million, Kevin.
It's not just Mack. It's getting rid of Tariq Cohen, which frees up, I think.
Right. I get that. Tariq Cohen, I have no problem with. He's probably never going to play again.
Trevathan gone. You're freeing up money. They're going to restructure contracts. They're going to extend, Roquan Smith. They're going to free up a lot of money this year. And then next year, this is why I say, this year they will have. I think they'll have a team that will, for a good period of time, will have a shot and will be winning games and will be exciting because they're winning offensively. And then they'll be in a position to get that, because at this point, a losing record can get you into the 7th seed any given year. That could happen. They get in the playoffs, and then boom, you made the playoffs. You can put that on the wall, and then you have $140 million, which will be by far the most in the NFL in 2023. You can spend all that and win the Super Bowl in 2023. It's you can be afraid of a rebuild, and I don't think it's a full rebuild, but you're 2 years away. Honestly, with the money there you're looking at right now, you're realistically 2 years away from being a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Like, not just floating around like, oh, they can make the playoffs, and then, oh, they're going to need a Cinderella. Like, legitimate Super Bowl contender, given the money that they have in 2 years. Yeah. That's all it takes.
I would on Wednesday, I would have entertained that. The idea that you shipped Khalil Mack and his contract for a couple.
Oh, but see, here's
I don't
you're
think
wrong, though.
that signals to me that they're going to be in the Super Bowl next year.
No, I think on Wednesday you entertain that less because you don't have the same amount of money. I mean, Justin, it is rare that you'll see a team eat the amount of money that they ate. They ate the whole contract, all $68 million.
Yeah.
I mean, they ate the whole fucking contract. That is rare. On Wednesday, I might think, because here's the difference, Justin. On Wednesday, I'm thinking, yeah, this team could have a chance to make playoffs this year and maybe make a Cinderella run and whatever. And then they might do that for a few years. Today, I'm thinking they could still have a chance to float around there at the 6 or 7 seed. But in 2 years, they're going to be the top 5 team in the league.
What's missing from this argument, and that maybe so, is that the Khalil Mack move doesn't mean that in 2023 they're going to have so much money that they didn't have. It
does. They've got $140
Obviously, that
million.
makes sense. That makes sense. But they would have already had. They were going to have $96 million. They were already going to have a lot of money because all these they have the most free agents in football right now. They're getting rid of everybody. And I understand that why to do it. A lot of these guys are getting old. Trevathan can't stay on the field, and he's, you know what, it's time for. He's probably going to retire. You know, like it's at a certain point where he's 34, 35. But the problem I have with the Max stuff is I'm like, fans are like, yes, we'll have money next year. His contract's gone. They were going to have money anyway. As I saw a commentator say, they would have had $96 million and Mack. Now they've got $123 million and not him. And so you get to a certain point where like, I'm not sure that that's great. Because what I would do with that $121 million is go get Khalil Mack. Like I'd go get and that's what scares me. They're going to do that. What we're going to find out next year, and you and I will be on this show in a year's time, and we'll be like, what do we like about Nick Bosa? He's great. He's coming to Chicago. It'd just be a replacement. So I'm like, I'm not sure that the philosophy all Bears fans are getting into, like, oh, this is going to save money. They have to pay the defensive end position. They're going to go get someone at the same level Khalil Mack was at. My point is, should have kept him. He's one of the best in the business. Stats bear out. Should have kept him. Now, I'm a little bit worried that they're going to go to free agency and they're going to say, you know, and I'm trying to think of who's a good mid-level defensive end, like the Jared Allen of 2007.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Like one of these.
They're not just going to reach for a veteran at this point.
No,
I think they're looking for
a veteran
younger
on
talent.
the side, and they'll go, oh, well, he's not as, you know, and that's what I'm afraid they're going to do, which is what they did with Trestman. I mean, that was what they did, and they were that once. You
are just pessimistic with this Trestman comparison.
And as Shane says here, you know, Poles says he wants a young team. And it doesn't really. I understand that Matt's defense isn't based on the edge rusher. It's a 3-tech. I understand that. First of all, Khalil Mack has played all positions, and he's played different positions and been in the Pro Bowl. So let's just talk about talent. Like I understand, and if that was the case, there's another head scratcher to me. That if you're going to play a 3-tech technique without a pass edge rusher in an NFL defense, which is fine, why did you pick this why'd you pick this coach when you have Robert Quinn and Khalil Mack and all these guys that play a different defense? That's what I'm like, that's weird that you chose a head coach, Ryan Poles picked him, who does not fit the personnel on the team. And again, I'm like, I'm not saying that Eberflus is going to fail, but it goes back to this idea of like, so because Matt Eberflus is bringing a high school run laps mentality that we got to get rid of the best players in the NFL. I don't get that. I don't get it. Khalil Mack is one of the best players in the NFL. You can't say otherwise. You can make an argument he gets hurt. Everyone gets hurt. The Bosas are hurt all the time. Like, I'm just saying, like, that position gets hurt. But anyone who says he's old and he gets hurt, I'm like, you're not paying attention. There are a lot of 31-year-olds who are making big plays in the NFL. Aaron Donald.
Yeah, because they're on the field. They're on the field. He plays 6 games in 2021. I don't care. I mean, like, again, that's what it comes down to. And
hold on. Who's G Station saying that is not true? It's just not true. Maybe the year that they were down and the Colts were up. Last year, I would put the Bears defense up against the Colts, and statistics aside, the Bears defense was a great defense last year. They were
past year?
This past year, they were great, and even without Mack.
No, they were not. You want to know why? What's the one reason they weren't great? What's the one, you
Khalil
can
Mack
go down. No, that's not why. You can go down the statistics for both teams, and you can go apples to oranges all day. The number that sticks out, and the reason why Matt Eberflus was hired, is Indy gets takeaways, and takeaways win football games. You can allow 28 points. That's great. You get takeaways, you win the football game if your team scores 20.
No doubt about it. But that.
Bears did not get any takeaways last year at all.
I don't know what shit to do with Eberflus' scheme. He's got better players.
It does.
No, you think Fangio's scheme is not about takeaways? You think Sean Desai's scheme is not about takeaways? It's all about takeaways. And the idea is we had an Eddie Jackson who has not intercepted a ball in 2 years now? Like, I mean, at a certain point, you're like, yeah, how many picks did Jalen Johnson have last year? Like, there's a lot. Like, the secondary was terrible last year. So yes, I'm with you, and I'm okay with replacing Gibson, and I'm okay with replacing Eddie Jackson. I think Eddie Jackson has proven why he fell in the draft. I don't think he's a superstar. And you see that teams figured him out real quick, and he is no longer a top 10 safety in this league. I mean, you could go down a list. I mean, the Bears last year, and this is why Ryan Pace has to go, and why Ryan Poles is in, and I'm glad he is they rolled the dice in March of last year that they didn't need a secondary. Right? They rolled that dice. They said, Artie Burns, Vildor, we'll try this. We'll draft a guy in the 6th round. It's not that big of a deal. And it bit him in the ass. And Ryan Pace needs to be fired for that. But now Ryan Poles is saying, you know what? We don't necessarily need a superstar edge rusher. We'll be okay. I hope it doesn't bite him in the ass the same way that it bit, what's his name in the ass last year.
Oh, my God.
You got to pay these fucking guys, man. The biggest names on the side of the football get paid.
In the years with Brian Urlacher, here. In the years of Brian Urlacher, you're the guy. You're the old Bears fan. Who was the edge rusher in those?
Adewale Agumiele, who was great, and he was paid.
Adewale Agumiele. Oh,
well, hold on. He was paid by the Chicago Bears. The Bears paid, and who the Bears paid on the defensive side of the ball would have been Urlacher. Probably got paid the highest of all the Bears at that time. Lance Briggs got paid, right? Lance Briggs Charles Tillman got paid, and so did who was the tackle? Who was Tommy Harris got paid. Tommy Harris got paid a lot of money to play that position. I'm just saying they paid the defensive side of that ball. So they did the same thing. Rex Grossman did not get paid. He was on a rookie contract, and they're like, you're just going to be our rookie, and we're going to throw you out there. Kyle Orton did not get paid. But my point is, they paid on the defensive side of the ball. The one time they didn't pay was Mark Dressman and John Fox. They didn't pay on John Fox. Who can you name who the defensive ends were for the Bears when John Fox was the coach?
Pernell McPhee, Willie Young, the man, gone fishing, Willie Young.
Lamar Houston. Right?
Yeah, and the Bears have a far more talented defense than that team already. So I'm not going to compare them to the John Fox era. I'm not. I think you make the argument they're not paying people. They're about to give Roquan. He'll probably be the highest paid linebacker in the NFL easily. When he gets his new contract, he'll reset the market for linebackers. Yeah, he will.
I don't know
that's just what happens.
They're going to hold against him, and I agree.
They're not. They can't.
I think he's amazing. I think there's nothing wrong. He should get paid at the top,
and he will
linebacker football, but he will not because he doesn't have Pro Bowls.
No, that is come on.
Kevin, they'll use it against him.
No, they will not. No, they will not.
They don't just say there are market values. They'll say, well, you know what, Bobby Wagner gets paid this, and this guy gets paid this, so you get paid this since you're 4th in stats.
No,
that's what they're going to do to him. That's why Khalil Mack gets paid whatever, $28 million or whatever he's getting paid. He was getting paid because he was of the top 3, and his stats bore that out. That's why he got paid that money. So what I'm saying to Bears fans is, yeah, you can get rid of him, but what replaces that top 3 stat? 221 quarterback pressures. Now, he didn't get there every time. You're absolutely right. He had a couple seasons where he had 7 sacks or whatever. But you cannot, you follow this game. You're the smartest Bears analysis I know. You follow this game. You know that Khalil Mack made a huge difference on the field every time he was there. They doubled him. They chipped. They did whatever. It changed the offense. No offense was blowing us out and going deep because Khalil Mack, they had to be conservative in the game plan.
I can't say that the last 2 years. I can say that with certainty, Justin, the first 2 years. You are absolutely right. The impact that he made on the game was greater than any player in 2018, aside from the quarterbacks. He was the most impactful player in the NFL. I cannot say the same in years 2020 and years 2021. And I think that was evident. I can't. Yeah. I mean, again, when I talk about showing up week in and week out, making a difference, getting after the quarterback, talking about your impact on the whole team, it was significantly lower
The
than what
only
it was.
game that mattered
And-
in 2019, or 2020, 2020. The only game that mattered, that Bears team was so terrible, was the game in which they beat Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. And if you can go back and watch that tape, you will see Khalil Mack play a defensive game that is never. I mean, it's unbelievable.
One game's great. Mitch
I'm
Trubisky
just
had
saying,
one
like,
great
you just
game
told
against
me
the
that he
Buccaneers in
fell off.
2018.
You just told me he fell off, and
fell
that
off.
game is a
He
game that
fell
Tom
off.
Brady will tell you. He's like, Khalil Mack's the best defense player I played against. Like, it was unreal how he just manhandled the Tampa Bay Bucs. Now, you're right. There are probably games against the Lions or the Vikings or something there that he did not show up, or at least we didn't see him on the tape. But my point is, it's hard for me to hear you say he fell off or he wasn't doing it. He led the league he led the NFC in sacks when he got hurt in 2021. What are you talking about?
But how much of an impact was he making on the game? I mean, how much of an impact was he making on the game?
We had Andy Dalton as quarterback and Justin.
Exactly. You're proving the point. You're proving the point. You had Andy Dalton as the quarterback. Exactly. It doesn't matter.
It's not. The Chicago Bears are tricking you as a fan. You can't have Khalil Mack and a rookie Justin Fields and go get you had Allen Robinson. He's getting paid $18 million a year as a receiver. This is all on scheme, man. You have two running backs that are you yourself said of the future. They had the weapons there. They didn't use them. I don't know what Matt Nagy was doing with curl routes and 4-yard things. They had all that stuff. They just didn't develop Justin Fields. They didn't want him, whatever it was. We knew that going in. He shouldn't have been given. Matt Nagy shouldn't have been given another year in his contract. Mm-hmm. We were on the air together at the end of the 2020 season when they got blown out by the Saints in that playoff game going, he got to go. And they gave him one more year, and he proved to be terrible, right? But my point is, Justin Fields had a number one receiver in Allen Robinson. They didn't use him. They had a number two in Darnell Mooney, a great season. They had a number one pick in Cole Kmet. He was a number one.
Yeah, he's second rounder. He was second rounder, but first.
Okay, second rounder. But the point being, there's another second rounder. And they drafted to their defense. They drafted two defense or offensive linemen in that draft to come in and make an impact.
And they will.
Yeah. But my point I'm making is it's a false equivalent to say that because Khalil Mack was getting paid, we couldn't invest in the offense. The offense was invested in. It was just a terrible scheme. And now they're going to try to sell you. We don't need Khalil Mack because we want to give Justin Fields weapons. So
it's not just weapons, though. It's not just weapons. It's the line. It's, and that's really the most important thing. It's the line. And that's why I would like to see that money be allocated to strong offensive line pieces, because that's what I think matters most right now, especially when you talk about, the concerns of Justin Fields are the lengthy throwing motion and all those. Well, okay, get him on an offensive line to give him enough time in the pocket, or find a way to move him out of the pocket and get rid of those factors. Like, it's not that difficult. But, I hear you. I do. I hear you, and I don't think we'll ever agree on it.
I think Ryan Jensen. I think they could have kept Mack and got a Ryan Jensen who gives them some leadership on that line. Obviously, they don't have a leader there, and that's the problem. Like, Cody Whitehair is not a leader for that squad. And usually, you had Olin Kreutz when that team was remember punching Fred Miller in the mouth, like in that Super Bowl season. Like, there was a lot more fire from the offensive line on winning Bears teams than we saw last year. So I think that, you go get Ryan Jensen, a leader. You need leaders on this team that give Justin Fields the moment, not guys that are, there you go. Andrew Luck at an offensive line, right? But that's what I'd like to see them do. And I'm bummed that we lost Khalil Mack. I think we're going to be wondering what's missing in week 5 next year. And we're going to be like, this team is missing some fire. And we're going to be like, oh, right. As we're watching Monday Night Football, the LA Chargers beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and Mac doing
Stop it.
You're going to hear Chris Collinsworth go, this guy's just incredible. What an incredible player. I can't believe the Bears let this guy go.
Not bad. Not a bad impression. But I mean,
it's still gonna be what it is.
That's not, because when you talk about, what are you missing? No, that doesn't, fire and energy is not derived from one player. It's derived from the coach and the team and the tone that is set by them. Yeah. And Khalil Mack was never a guy who really set the tone, in my opinion, for the rest of the team. I didn't ever see it like that. And I think Matt Eberflus is a guy who is collectively as a team going to create a mentality and a different style of football that every time they take the field, we're going to knock the shit out of you and we're going to be relentless. And one, like, if the whole team acting in that way is a lot better than one player who never really acted in that way. So I don't know. I mean,
they were pretty
I get
relentless
it,
in that 18 season. They were
what?
They were pretty relentless in that 2018 season.
Yeah, then they fell off.
And they fell off. I mean, and that's it could be Mack, it could be something else. I hope you're right. I really do. I want to love the Bears. I'm scared right now that we're going to be like at 2:30 on Monday when the free agency, all these guys are coming off. Wagner signs with the Cowboys, and Jensen re-signs with Tampa, and any Chandler Jones is back in Arizona, and we'll be like, wait, who's left? And then it'll be that Ryan Poles will turn into Ryan Pace going, I got Angelo Blackson for $5.5 million. He's going to be serviceable. Pernell McPhee's coming over again. He's out of retirement. That's what I'm worried about. I don't want to see that.
Buddy Daly's coming at me. Kevin is so obnoxious. See? LOL. Khalil Mack was.
I'm bringing all the people out. They were like hiding because Bears Nation was like, this is such a good trade. I don't like it, man.
Okay, Buddy Daly. Watch the games in 2020 and 2021 and tell me how the tone of that defense was set by Khalil Mack. Go watch it.
I hope they're great. I really do. I want to make that very clear. I'm a Bears fan, and it sucks. I can't be a fan of any other team. I want them to be great. And the only thing that's like a wild card right now is if Eberflus's defense, as G Station pointed out, the scheme and the 3-tech, they bring something different that we haven't seen that we love, back to that kind of lovey thing, and it doesn't matter about the personnel. I love it, but that's a hard sell for me.
Fair enough. Well, time will only tell, Justin. Come Monday, we'll do it again, and you'll have a completely different outlook. You never know. Don't rule it out, buddy.
I'm not going to be like Skip Bayless or someone like that who's like won't accept that I was wrong. If the Bears on Monday load up on defense and they're like, hey, we got Bobby Wagner, Chandler Jones, Frank Clark is here now, I will definitely come back on Bears Nation podcast and say, you know what? I give Ryan Poles some credit, man. Good job. And I hope you do the same when he goes, they got the journeyman from the Giants.
I will. I will to an extent. Yeah, I will. I always own up to my wrongs and my terrible takes. They happen. Very far
it'll be like
Jake,
a throwaway Lions receiver. They're gonna be like what was Tate? They're gonna have a
Golden Tate.
Yeah, Golden Tate. That's what they'll get. They'll be like
Randall Cobb,
38, and he's coming over now. He's gonna help. Randall Cobb understands the offense that Luke Getsy's running. That's what they're gonna pull on you. They're gonna be like
Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Actually, MVS could be a good piece for that team, but
you know they're gonna do that. You know they're gonna do that.
They might, but God knows, man.
We're bringing back Jimmy Graham just for a 2-year contract. We're going to bring him back because we think he's the answer.
I love Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, right.
It's an easy touchdown in the red zone every time. They wouldn't do it, but
they just wouldn't do it.
Just wouldn't do it. Just throw him the fucking ball. It doesn't matter. All right, man. That was fun. That was fun. That was good stuff, man. I see, like, sometimes Jake and I, we agree too much. Like, I need some of this back and forth in my life, man. Look at this. See, I'm screenshotting this right here from Shane. I'm screenshotting this. Shane, you are the man. Hey, shout out to the comments, man. I mean, this is one of the most views we've had, man. People are coming in, just having a blast. You guys are the best. G Station, Shane, Buddy Daly, all you guys.
If you guys are agreeing or you decide you're agreeing, just text me and I'll come in and be the contrarian. It doesn't matter what the opinion is.
Hey, Justin, come on in. We need somebody to blow this thing up.
I think Khalil Herbert's terrible. Like, I'll give you whatever you need.
The most ridiculous take. Just pull that out of your ass to get us.
I think Jermaine Fetty should be back, and they should pay him $25 million. Like
oh God, that would be different. That would be something, man. Jermaine Fetty. But all right, brother, I'm gonna hit this outro, and we'll be on here. Hey, maybe you never know. We'll be out here on Monday. You never know, and we'll be talking good. So, all right, see you later.
See you, man.
Bye.